Hello, friends. This is another portion of disturbing stories from the vastness of Reddit. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new releases. And here we go. I met someone at work who didn't seem human. I'm 16 and I work at the local grocery store. I've had the job for about a year now. Since I'm still in high school, I don't work during the day. I usually get scheduled for 3 weekday shifts, mostly closing from 6 to 10. This past Wednesday seemed like a normal night. It was around 9, maybe 9:30, and I was just waiting for my shift to end. I was up near the front of the store, restocking cans, when I noticed a man walk in. I'm not great at guessing ages, but he looked like he was around 40. He was average height, maybe 5'10", and had this really pale skin, like he hadn't been outside in a long time. His clothes didn't look dirty or anything, but they felt off, almost like they didn't fit quite right, like he had put on someone else's outfit. It was a plain gray hoodie and black jeans, but the hoodie sat too tight around the neck, and the sleeves were too short. What caught my attention was the way he moved. He looked stiff, like inhumanly stiff. He was walking as if he didn't have any joints, just kind of rigid and unnatural. His arms hung straight at his sides, barely swinging, and his feet hit the floor hard with every step. It creeped me out a little, but I ignored it and kept working. A few minutes later, I finished, and my manager told me to restock some more things near the back of the store. So I grabbed the cart and headed back. And then, the man appeared again. Same strange walk. He looked like he was searching for something, but had no idea what it was. When he noticed me, he walked over and asked where the soda was. His voice was haunting, cold and flat, like there was no emotion behind it. It made me feel uneasy. Up close, his face looked wrong, not scary, just wrong. His skin was smooth in a way that didn't look natural, almost plastic. His eyes were sunken, but not in a tired way. They just looked hollow. And the weirdest part was how he blinked. It was slow, like someone acting out what blinking is supposed to look like. I told him what aisle it was in, and then he did something that really freaked me out. He repeated my exact sentence, word for word, then said, "Thank you." That might not sound super weird, but in the moment it felt off. I finished up and went back to my manager. I looked around for the guy, but I couldn't find him anywhere. He must have left. I asked my manager if she'd seen him, but she said no. I asked the cashier later, and he said she had noticed his weird walk, but he hadn't bought anything. I went home and tried to forget about it, but I had trouble sleeping. I kept thinking about his face. It was uncanny, like a copy of a real person. It just didn't feel right. It's been a few days, and I still can't get his face, or the way he walked, out of my head. I don't believe in the paranormal, however. If you were to ask me if ghosts were real, I would probably say no, maybe out of denial, or maybe my brain has unconsciously made some rational explanation, and I just haven't realized yet. What happened to me wasn't a large thing at all. I don't think ghosts would do anything as big as what some people claim to experience on this subreddit, if they are even real. Again, what happened isn't that big, but it almost made me question my own beliefs. Washington State is a creepy place, and one of my favorite things about the state is all of the small towns scattered around. You drive through these towns, and everybody's heads will turn to stare at you, and only stop when they couldn't turn their heads anymore. Even though I live here, I felt like an outsider in all of the coastal towns, and I don't hate it. I don't live in the place where this happened, so I feel like I should say exactly where this happened, just for context. The Long Beach Peninsula has many ghost stories, and also had one of the oldest towns in Washington State. Oysterville is an unincorporated village with so much history, it seems to be overflowing out of the small town. I was there on a trip with a few family members, and the second we entered the town, I started to feel strange. I couldn't really tell why, as I get strange feelings a lot. I never even considered that they could be paranormal. We visited a small church that was always open, except for at night. We also visited a schoolhouse and an old abandoned cabin, all of which you should easily be able to find by driving around the town for a short amount of time. The church was unfortunately, or fortunately, the only place we were able to actually enter. The church was old and white with a red roof. Inside was all brown wood that still had a faint earthy smell. The floor of the stage and the altar creaked when you walked on it, and the small rooms to the side also creaked. The secondary room, off to the side of the altar, connected to the small square entryway, which also had a door leading to the altar. One member of my family seriously believes in ghosts to the point of saging their house every few months, or more often, to try to trick them, likely with the intent of teasing them after the fact. I went around to the front entrance area and pushed open a door. I turned the knob and the door swung open, as the entire church was tilted on a hill. I ran around to see this person freaking out, and what happened next happened fast. The door swung back closed, going the opposite the direction from the way the church was tilted. I stopped laughing for a few seconds, and because it was nothing crazy, ultimately decided to annoy it. Later that night, me and another family member started to make jokes about the bad energy our extremely superstitious family member was talking about. I had gone back into the church alone before we left and had said, "If anything is here, please follow me." Something that many people would tell me not to do. I guess you could say that I wanted to be convinced that ghosts were real. Walking down to the beach at night, I saw a figure on top of the grassy and sandy hills that lead to the beach. It was a head with shoulders. I have head shadows like that described as darker than the dark. I can second that. It disappeared right as I saw it. We walked back after looking at the stars, and nothing much happened. All that night, nothing happened. The next day, a door closed. I don't need that many details to tell this story. Nothing has happened since then, besides strange feeling, and the fact that I am losing my AirPods more than I usually do. It could just be a coincidence. There isn't much detail in this story, and it isn't all that scary, but it made me question what I believe, and just the thought of going back to that church gives me a bad feeling, even though I plan to. If anybody here knows more about the paranormal than I do, which is likely, or if anybody wants to tell me what they think actually happened, you are welcome to. I can think of so many ways to explain what happened, but it was just the feeling I got that makes me almost want to believe in ghosts now. That's all the stories for today. Thanks for listening to the end. And with these tips, you can watch my other videos.